We're often told that the best moments in our lives are the ones where we're relaxing, kicking back on vacation, no worries, just pure comfort. But what if that's totally wrong? Today, we're going to dig into this really powerful idea that true happiness, what some psychologists call optimal experience, isn't found in just passively chilling out. It happens when we voluntarily push ourselves, our minds and bodies, to achieve something that's actually difficult and worthwhile. The philosopher John Stuart Mill figured this out a long, long time ago. The direct hunt for happiness, it's a total trap. The more you obsess over being happy, the more it just slips through your fingers. And that's because happiness isn't some destination you just arrive at. It's more like a byproduct, something that happens when you're completely, totally absorbed in what you're doing.
So if we're not actively engaged in something, what's our mind's default setting? Well, it's a state called psychic entropy. Just think of it as mental chaos. It's that constant background noise of worry, boredom, anxiety, the stuff that pulls your attention every which way. It's kind of the natural, untrained state of our minds, and honestly, it keeps us from feeling good or getting anything meaningful done.
But, and this is the important part, we don't have to live in that chaotic state. There is an alternative. There's a blueprint for building a better inner world, and this is the architecture of what we call flow, a state of optimal experience that brings order to our minds.
The whole foundation for this blueprint starts with how you think about your attention. Imagine it's a kind of psychic energy. It's a finite resource, right? You only have so much of it every day. How you decide to invest that energy, moment by moment, literally creates the quality of your entire life. So mastering your inner world really starts with mastering where you point that energy.
So, how do we invest it the right way? Well, it's about avoiding two huge traps we all fall into: anxiety and boredom. We've all been there. Anxiety is what you feel when the challenge in front of you is just way, way bigger than your skill level. You feel completely overwhelmed. And boredom? That's the exact opposite. Your skills are way higher than the challenge, and the task is just mind-numbingly dull.
The best experiences in life happen on this narrow path right between those two feelings. It's called the flow channel. It's that perfect sweet spot where the challenge you're facing is perfectly matched to your skills. You're not overwhelmed, but you're definitely not bored. You're being stretched right to the very edge of your abilities, and you're just completely locked in. Now, what's really cool is that this isn't random. You can actually design activities to make flow happen. There are 3 key ingredients, 3 non-negotiables. First, you need clear goals. You have to know exactly what you're trying to do. Second, you need immediate feedback, so you know step by step how you're doing. And third, of course, is that perfect balance between the challenge and your skill.
All right, keeping those rules in mind, let's just blow up a huge cultural assumption. We are all taught to see work as the bad guy, the burden, and leisure time as the prize. But if you actually look at where the conditions for flow show up in our lives, the results are, well, they're pretty shocking.
So let me just ask you this. Where do you think we actually find that perfect mix of clear goals, instant feedback, and matched challenges most of the time? Is it at home, relaxing on the couch, or is it somewhere else?
The data couldn't be clearer, and it's totally counterintuitive. People report being in a state of flow almost 4 times more often at work than they do during passive leisure, like watching TV. Get this, over half of all reported flow states happen on the job. And why? Because work most of the time naturally gives us that structure, clear goals, feedback, challenges that our free time often completely lacks.
This all leads to this really fascinating paradox. When we're at work, we often say we feel happy, strong, creative, focused. The actual quality of our experience, right in that moment, is super high. And yet, if you ask us, we'll almost always say we'd rather be doing something else. We're just so stuck on this cultural idea that work is bad that we completely ignore what we're actually feeling. And this just proves that it's not about the job itself, it's all about how you approach it. Let me tell you about this guy, Rico Medellin. He was an assembly line worker, and his job was incredibly repetitive, super monotonous, but instead of just giving into the boredom, he completely transformed it. He turned it into a game for himself, setting little goals to try and beat his own speed record. He basically created a flow activity where there wasn't one, and he found real enjoyment in a place you'd never expect.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit, because flow isn't just about making your Monday morning a little more enjoyable. Over time, all these experiences, they start to add up. They're like the bricks and mortar for building a stronger, more complex, and more resilient version of yourself. And here's another one of those weird paradoxes.
When you're in deep flow, your sense of self just vanishes. All that nagging worry about how you look or what people are thinking or whether you're going to mess up, it just disappears. And that's a huge deal because that self-consciousness eats up a ton of our psychic energy. When it's gone, all that energy is free to be poured into the task at hand.
When you make a habit of finding flow, you start to develop what's called an autotelic personality. It's a fancy term, but the idea is simple. Auto means self, telos means goal. It describes a person who finds their rewards internally. They don't need a pat on the back or more money or a promotion to feel motivated. For them, the activity itself is the reward. So here's the bottom line. Flow grows you as a person through two key processes. The first is differentiation. As you take on and master new challenges, you develop unique skills. You become more of an individual. But at the same time, the second process is integration. Because you lose yourself in the activity, you actually feel more connected to everything and everyone around you. See, someone who's only differentiated, they might just be an egotist. And someone who is only integrated might just be a conformist with no real individuality. A truly complex self, the masterpiece you're building through a lifetime of flow, is both. It's someone who is uniquely skilled and confident, but also deeply and harmoniously connected to the world around them. But to get that real, lasting sense of satisfaction, all these separate moments of flow need to be tied together. They need to add up to something bigger, a unified life theme, an overarching purpose that gives meaning to all your other efforts. Without that, even a life that's full of enjoyable moments can just feel kind of random and pointless. So I'll leave you with this question. This isn't about chasing some fleeting feeling of happiness. It's about building a life of engagement, of skill, of purpose. So what is the one great challenge, the one unified theme that could bring order to your mind and give real meaning to everything you do?